My fellow educators, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, greetings and good day everyone. The title of my presentation today is COVID-19 Pandemic, Resetting Norms and Policy Responses. I'm going to share with you the world data of the pandemic cases. This is like as of I think early October. We have the date here, retrieved on 14 October. We have the number of cases, total is about 38 million people infected, and more than 1 million people died. And if you want to see like the the name of the countries, we have the in the list. And also the trend of new cases worldwide, we can see I think it's actually an upward trend from January up to October. It's like keep increasing. This is like the new cases daily reported. Okay, and this is the graph in Malaysia, slightly better than the world data, but we are worried that we have a sharp increase here between middle of September to early October here. Okay, of course there are reasons why this is happening, but we are just showing the trend. Okay, so this is very unique that COVID-19 is started with a health crisis. But the immediate responses to control and curb the spread of the infection have led to other crises such as the economic, cultural, and social, resulting in new norms. So, for instance, the lockdown, movement control order, etc., led to closure of countries, borders between countries, and also limit economic and social activities. Some sectors were closed, totally closed. People became jobless, which in turn created income issues among the people and the government. The impact on education is, I think, is noticeable. Is great. We see that many education institutions were closed. Schools and higher education institutions are closed, are forced to opt for online learning and assessment. Students need assistance. Staff face unprecedented challenges, including job insecurity. University leaders had to rethink how to run their campus operation. Parents worried about the safety of their children, and also more than 1,500 million students were affected globally due to school closure. And this is about 90% of the school population. You can see clearly here from the graph. This is a report by UNESCO, and you see the peak here. It's actually between middle March and end of April. The impact of COVID-19 on higher education I think, is clearly shown by the report done by International Association Universities and the UNESCO. We can see later, I'll share with you the detail, the summary of the main findings. Some of the areas impacted quite badly is on student enrollment. Second is on teaching, learning, and assessment. Next is on student mobility, also on research, and also community engagement. The survey involved 424 institutions in 109 countries in Africa, America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. And almost all institutions responded that they have been infected by COVID-19. All campus activities have stopped and the institution is completely closed. They also highlighted the immediate challenge to ensure a clear and effective communication with the staff and students. Majority of the respondents also believe that COVID-19 will have an impact on the enrollment numbers of the new academic year, both international and local students. Some reported that this impact would have negative financial consequences also. In also the respondents indicated that the government or Ministry of Education will support the institution in mitigating the disruption that COVID-19 is causing. Interestingly, almost all the institutions reported that COVID-19 affected teaching and learning. classroom teaching has been replaced by distance teaching and learning. And of course, the main challenges are access to technical infrastructure, competence and pedagogies for distance learning, and also requirement of specific fields of study. Important opportunities also somehow emerge. So we can see that important opportunities for more flexible learning possibilities, explore blended or hybrid learning, and to make synchronous learning with asynchronous learning. COVID-19 also has had negative impact on international student mobility, but somehow COVID-19 has increased virtual mobility and or collaborative online learning. On assessment, more than half of the institutions are planning to carry out exams for the semester as planned. Majority through new measures. 80% of the institutions in Europe plan to carry out exams, while in Africa, exams are at risk of being postponed or cancelled. In research, research also has been affected by COVID-19 pandemic due to cancellation of international travel, cancellation or postponement of scientific conferences, and also scientific projects are at risk of not being completed. I'll move to the new norms in teaching, learning, and assessment. We'll start with taking the Malaysian case here. Before the pandemic, we are actually on the way to online learning, but the pandemic has forced us to be there. If you look at the 10 shift in the Malaysian Education Blueprint 2015 to 2025, as you can see from the diagram here, Shift 9 is focusing on online learning. Shift 10, transform HE delivery, coupled with Education Policy 4.0. We are actually moving towards that, the online learning. Somehow, the pandemic has speeded up our journey there. So the new norms in teaching learning is actually online learning. Some of the issues and challenges that we face is including limited access or no access in some areas. We also face problems of missing students. They seem to be online, but they are not there. So sometimes also it's because of electricity failure that causes interruption in power supply, especially in rural remote areas. We also are having problem with specific courses that require hands-on activities that students have to go to the lab, studios, or using specific instrument or equipment. So we have to think of whether or not there's any substitutes for this. The new norm in assessment is a mix of performance-based, multidimensional, and integrated assessment. So some of the issues and challenges include like continuous assessment. Yes, we can still do continuous assessment, like from the beginning until the end of the semester, throughout. We can still do written assignment, yes. It's just that when we talk about alternative assessment, which involve projects, oral presentation, practical group work, and it's like a mix, yes and no. So to a certain extent, yes, it's okay, we can still do it, but with modifications. So probably they have to submit the reports with the video to the lecturers. I think the issue here is about final exam. So for courses that require students to sit for the final exams, some are okay to have the exam online, but some students are not having a good connection to internet, and we don't want them to be deprived. So it's really it's depending on the context. So in some cases, final assessment are replacing final exam. We also look at the challenges, lesson learned from research. I picked this from the Economic Policy Institute, USA. The report says that online learning and teaching are effective only if there are conditions set. First, if students have consistent access to the internet. Number two, if teachers receive targeted training. That's the second requirement. And the third one, if supports for online instructions are made available. I'll move to the next one, the policy responses. Well, policy responses are varied. Different ways have been introduced in different countries. For instance, in the first phase, when we tried to curb the spread of the virus, some countries enforced lockdown, total lockdown. Some enforced like movement control order, and also different stages were involved. Like for instance, in Malaysia, we have the MCO at the beginning, movement control order, followed by the EMCO, or enhanced movement control order in red zones, and also we have later conditional MCO, and now we are at the phase of recovery MCO. But I think that the last week I have observed that some red zones also started to appear again, and the government is enforcing CMCO again. Uh, Also, the news about current situations, current norms, policies, new rules, regulations are announced frequently, communicated through various platforms, TV and radio channels, newspapers, social media, including Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram, FB, Instagram, and so on. Similarly, in education, education policy responses are introduced at different levels. We can see like the full world level, ministry level, state institution, focusing on different aspects. Some focus on operation, some focus on teaching learning, and some focus on assessment. I'm going to share with you some of this example. The example number one is by UNESCO on SDG education, or SDG 4. This is recommendation made by the steering committee on April 2nd. Government to make inclusion and equity the guiding principle of all COVID-19 education responses. So learning cannot stop. This is the thing that we have to really take serious attention. The committee also urges that governments to maintain strong political commitment and investment in education throughout and after the crisis, and calls upon bilateral and multilateral institutions to mobilize fundings for education. The next recommendation is for government to prioritize teachers and educational personnel safety, health, and well-being, preserve their employment rights and wages, and provide professional support, training, and collaborative platforms for good practices innovation. And I think I've talked about the commitment and investment in education. So I'll share with you the second example. This is from USA. This one is focusing on assessment. This is fact sheet, impact of COVID-19 on assessment and accountability under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. It's clearly focused on assessment. We have the next example is on also by the World Bank. This is I think should be the third example. The COVID-19 crisis response, supporting tertiary education for continuity, adaptation, and innovation. And you can see some of the challenges to confront here. You can read yourself later. I will provide the slides. And as the next example is from Malaysia, Ministry of Education Malaysia. The ministry provides a guideline on how to manage and run schools in new norms. So this is like operation in nature. The other example is from Australia, school assessment in COVID-19 pandemic. And also here we can see like how it should be done, how it should be connected. Student work submitted to demonstrate achievement should only be accepted if the teacher can attest that, to the best of his or her knowledge, all work is the student's own. And the last example is the Vice Chancellor circular in one of the public universities in Malaysia. So you can see this. They talk about the decision by the Senate. The Senate has decided that the teaching and learning session for this semester for all study, or for all level of study, shall be carried out via online until the end of the semester, which is some in January, some in March. And they have, of course, students have to take note to the followings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not going to read all, but some of them will include this. Students with no internet access So students who do not have any access to internet and currently are at their hometown are required to contact their respective lecturers and the faculty, okay, to obtain the materials or to receive the materials. Secondly, they talk about the international students. They are to contact the EMGS prior to receiving any permission to enter Malaysia, or they can contact the International Mobility Center. And on teaching, training, industrial training and teaching apprenticeship program, students are allowed to proceed with their respective sessions. And I would like now to conclude my presentation. So we can say that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted higher education greatly, just like in other sectors. Policy responses and new norms have been and continually being established at different levels and contexts to ensure the continuity of higher education. Challenges are there, but we don't know when they are going to end, because looking from the upward trend just now of the cases. So, but anyway, besides the issues and challenges, there are also opportunity for new innovation, collaboration, invention, and a better plan for the future. So personally, I think the pandemic is testing our resilience, our problem-solving skills, our creativity, unity, collaboration for the survival of our nation. And for those of you who have not had the opportunity to watch the video of a student taking a test on a tree, which is viral on internet, it's in YouTube, you can access that. But let's now watch the interesting video together.
Jadi kita terpaksa memanjat pokok ini sekiranya kita ingin mendapatkan internet connection yang kuat sepanjang exam berlangsung. Aku ada bawa phone dan power bank. Ini kita punya bekal. Jadi kita perlukan kelambu untuk mencegah nyamuk. Peralatan untuk exam. Jom, set up. Exam kimia sudah habis. One, two, three. Submit. Good night everybody. Jumpa lagi besok.
So with that, thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.